What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and I thought about holding this one off till Halloween, but I don't want to plan that far in the future. Let's do Ghost type now. The Ghost type is one of the best types. I think you can pretty typically get in your Nuzlockes with really good immunities to normal and fighting, and usually other immunities to other types based on their dual types or their abilities, stuff like that. Ghost types can be really good offensively because not a lot of things resist ghost types, and ghost types can be really good defensively because of set immunities and only a couple weaknesses, usually to itself and the dark type, and then whatever the dual type brings as well. For this tier list, I am continuing on with the trend of me rating all of the Pokemon of said type kind of in a vacuum, and considering all of the different games they could be in. I'm not really talking about their home game, just talking about any vanilla game they could be in, whether it's a randomizer, whether it's a game they appear in, maybe it's a ROM hack that doesn't change any abilities. I do not consider ROM hacks that do change abilities, such as like Emerald Kaizo and Radical Red, because that is just a different beast entirely. Alright, so let's get into it. I've got the multiple different tiers here. First is the Boo tier because of ghosts. We have the C tier, which is Gasp, B tier, which is Screams, A tier, which is Poops Pants, S tier, which is Egads, and then the king of all ghosts, the ghouliest of ghosts, will go in the Jinkies tier. This is the one that I will pick at the end of the tier list. That I think, in my opinion, is the best ghost type to have in your Nuzlocke, regardless. And then I also have this game-breaking tier for one Pokemon in particular, which is Shedinja. Shedinja with Wonder Guard can essentially invalidate your Nuzlocke in a way, because how Wonder Guard works is you can only be hit by super effective hits. Now Shedinja does have a lot of super effective, does have a lot of weaknesses, so it can be hit super effectively, and it also has 1 HP, so in case it gets chipped by like weather or poison or will-o-wisp burn damage, something like that, it can still faint. But if you're not playing blind, if you're playing a game that you know a little bit about, if you're looking up beforehand, which you really should be doing for pretty much all Nuzlockes if you're trying to play effectively, you kind of just break the game with Wonder Guard, so I have to keep it here. If you're playing blind, it might not be so bad, but you still can just be in situations like, oh, you're going up against the Electric Gym. They don't have a single way to attack me, so I'm just going to completely invalidate that and win. So Shedinja needs to be in this own tier. It's a Pokemon I can't remember if I talked about it in the bug video or not. If I missed it, I think I did talk about it, but just to reiterate for the ghost type, it is game breaking. Wonder Guard is the most broken ability ever. Literally broken because it just changes everything. And let's get into it from here. So let's start with Gengar. I'm no longer going to talk about trait evolutions. Just know that all trait evolutions are a worse form of their final evolution, so I'm not going to talk about Haunter in this video. Just know that Haunter is like maybe a tier below where Gengar is, because it's just not as fast and not as strong. Although I guess for Haunter there are some cases in the later gens when Haunter still has Levitate but Gengar loses Levitate. But in most cases, if you can evolve them, the evolve form is better. And there's so many ways to evolve Pokemon now with the Universal Pokemon Randomizer for your old ROMs. And if you're playing older or some of the newer titles, you can surely trade with somebody. Surely you can find somebody to trade with. Heck, find somebody in my YouTube comment section. Just add each other in the comment section if you need trade evolutions. So I'm not going to talk about trade evolutions much anymore. But I do have some other unfully evolved Pokemon because they gain evolution in later generations. So I'm talk about them, I guess, in their home generation, which is Mismagius and Dusclops. I will be talking about them in Generation 2 and Generation 3 respectively, but when Generation 4 onward, when thinking about Dusclops, think about Dusknoir. I'm going to be ranking Dusknoir as the whole line, not Dusclops. So let's get that away. So Gengar. Gengar is a clear S tier. It is a super speedy, hits super hard, and old generations, which I think it stops in Gen 6 is when it loses Levitate. It has Levitate, which gives it a third immunity, along with normal fighting that Ghost usually has. You also have the immunity to ground, which just makes you really, really good defensively. It can give you really free switch-ins, even though you're a really squishy Pokemon. But Gengar is just such a crazy sweeper. It can learn a lot of coverage. It can still learn things like Hypnosis for some support. or like Will-O-Wisp. A lot of ghost types can learn Will-O-Wisp, which can give it supportive aspects to it. But Gengar, you use Gengar to be a sweeper. You use Gengar to hit really hard with Stab Shadow Ball, Stab Sludge Bomb, Psychic, Thunderbolt, random coverage like that. And Gengar does it very, very well. I think the poison typing actually hurts it because it gives it a weakness to Psychic. So instead of being a Psychic killer, it can actually lose to a Psychic type, which is a big deal, honestly, to me, because I feel like that's one of the main reasons to have a Ghost type, is to beat Psychic types. But I still will put it in the S tier. I think that fact alone, though, will probably keep it out of the Jinkies tier for me. Misdreavus. I actually really like Misdreavus. I think Pain Split and things like Confused Ray, it's got some good bulk. I think Pain Split is a really good ability. The Mono Ghost with a Levitate gives it some really good defensive typing. Only a couple weaknesses, which to Ghost and Dark, it's somewhat rare types, so it can be used defensively very easily against most things in Gen 2. And then just Pain Split, it's just really useful. It's like a nice way to get health back, almost, and then lower their health, and you have things like Confuse Ray to interrupt, and Stab Shadow Ball, even though it's physical in Gen 2, is still going to be like a decently hard-hitting attack. Is Shadow Ball in Gen 2? I actually can't remember off the top of my head. But I guess for like Gen 3. But like Stab, even without just being completely offensive, it has a lot of good defensive use. Even though its stats aren't great, but it's for Gen 2. There's not a lot of power creep in Gen 2, so I'm gonna throw it in the A tier. It could bounce between A and B tier. I'm just gonna leave it in the A tier for now. Sableye. I don't think Sableye, I feel like is one of the most overhyped overrated Pokemon. In my opinion, people look at the Ghost Arc typing in Generation 3 and stuff, and they say, oh, it doesn't have a weakness. It's like, cool, but it also has like no stats. So it's not really able to be defensive, even without a weakness. It has no form of recovery. Until you get Will-O-Wisp, which is usually pretty late, you don't have a way to like bolster defenses at all. You just like really low stats. So things that hit you neutrally are going to still probably two-shot, if not one-shot you, because you're just so frail and you just get power crept so hard in like later game. It's a great early game Ghost type, at least in like Gen 3, and then like other games, the Fairy typing comes in, and now you have a weakness, and you get Prankster, which helps you keep up a bit. So I'm gonna keep it in the B tier. I think it's really this one really fluctuates between what gen it is. I think it just doesn't have the stats to really do anything offensively. I mean, Stab Shadow Ball in Gen 3 is okay, but then when it's turned special, you're kind of like running off like Stab Shadow Sneak if you can get it, and it's just like, So it's not good offensively. It doesn't really do great defensively. It's really good competitive Pokemon because of all the things you can get competitively, and in competitive format, you know, with breeding and stuff like that. But Sableye on its own just doesn't, like, just pure level up, just doesn't get most of the things it would need, and obviously not a Mega. And oh yeah, Prankster's also hidden abilities. So yeah, Keen Eye Stall. I think Prankster, without Prankster, it just doesn't have, like, no weakness is a facade, really. I'm gonna put it in the C tier. I think it's just really weak. It's still a Ghost type, so like it can still be. And that's that kind of the thing about this list. Like, just because I put it in the C tier doesn't mean it's not a good addition to your Nuzlocke team at the moment, because it is a Ghost type, it is a Pokemon without a weakness, and it is a Dark type, which is good. It has got good typing to it, and that might be useful for you for a while. But if you have other options, that's kind of what I'm ranking. I'm ranking the other options. And another Gen 3 Ghost type that I think lands in B tier just for sheer mediocrity is Banette. Banette is not fast, it's not bulky at all, and it doesn't have a really good ability to help it be more defensive, like Levitate for another immunity or so. It does have good attack, it does have decent special attack, so it's a like mediocre offensive Ghost type, which is not bad, but there's others that can just do the same thing but better. And so it lands itself in the B tier. Now Dusclops. Dusclops is a defensive Ghost type that lacks recovery that doesn't need it, because Dusclops is, even before like Eviolite and stuff, in Generation 3. And yeah, in Generation 3, it's still super bulky. It gets things like Will-O-Wisp. It gets things like Confused Ray. Curse can be some decent chip damage for a little bit. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's just such a good status Pokemon. It's a really good switch in. It's a really good pivot because it's so bulky. It's not going to die even to its effective hit. It reasonably should not die unless it's like a super scary Pokemon. And you set up your status, you set up your Will-O-Wisp, your Confuse Ray, whittle down the opponent, and then switch out to another Pokemon. It's like an opportunity giver, and it's really good at doing that. It's bulk, it's moveset, it's got a lot it can do. It's usually ends up being very, very useful. Drifblim, I think the flying type on a ghost type is like being flying and ghost is some of the worst typing we have on this list, in my opinion, because you really don't. Flying doesn't really give the ghost type anything except for a ground immunity, which like you can get from having levitate. So other ghost types with levitate just are better in that regard, and you also gain the weaknesses to like electric, ice, rock, which is not helpful. But I think the real downside to Drifblim is it's just super mediocre. It's not as immediately powerful as Banette. It's a little bit faster, and I think its moveset is a little bit better because it does get like Stockpile, Baton Pass, which can be good. Like don't get me wrong, but Stockpile, Baton Pass can be pretty good. It has some more useful abilities, I guess, than Banette, but I wouldn't necessarily call it good because like Flare Boost is hidden ability, and that's the only really good ability. Unburden, Aftermath, pretty niche. I think it just lands in mediocrity. I think the one selling point for it, though, is Stockpile and Baton Pass. And I guess it can learn Root, so it could be like a somewhat good defensive ghost type after Stockpiles, but then I just think it lacks immediacy that a bunch of other ghost types do get. It does have really high HP. It's like kind of okay. It's like kind of okay offensively. It's like kind of okay defensively. I think it's just, yeah, it lacks immediacy. I think that's the real kicker for it. Mismagius, I think this thing is really good. This thing is a Gengar with better typing. So it's a Gengar that has Levitate. It has better typing because it doesn't have the poison type to it. It has better defensive stats and then worse offensive stats, but still good offensive stats. You still have Pain Split. You still have all the things that you had from Misdreavus. It's like Misdreavus, but just leveled up. It's exactly what this thing is. And I think this thing is really, really good. I'd even go as far to say it's better than Gengar, just because of the flexibility it gives you. Because it can be defensive with Pain Split, and it's good special defense. And it's still Will-O-Wisp to like kind of patch up its not as good physical defense. And it's still going to hit really hard and be a solid psychic killer with Shadow Ball, Stab Shadow Ball and stuff. And it can even get like Nasty Plot in later generations, just like Gengar can. But I really gotta say I value this thing more than I value Gengar, in a lot of situations. Not all the time, but a lot of situations. So I am currently going to put Misdreavus as the #1 ghost type at the moment. We'll see if that holds up. 105 speed, special attack, and special defense. It's really good stats. You're really fast, you're hitting hard, and you've got some good bulk on the special side. Yeah, I think this thing's pretty great. I might be wrong about the Nasty Plot point. I'm doubling. Okay, for TM. So the Nasty Plot is a TM. There we go. Spiritomb. This thing is the first contender for Jinky's tier. So this is a case where having no weaknesses is great, because this thing is a wall. This thing is super bulky, and even though it doesn't have healing, you can still utilize rest for it because it has such bulk. It can go to sleep for a while, and you can even just give it a Chesto Berry, and there you go. You got healing on this thing. Pressure is a decent ability. It can come in clutch for like some scary moves. It's somewhat niche, but it's got some great bulk to it. 108 in defenses, and it also still hits really hard with 92 attack and special attack. That's some pretty good. That's like a good attacking stat for a wall. And you can run this thing either specially or physically, but it does learn Nasty Plot by level up, and it learns it really early. So this thing can just turn into a crazy sweeper. It is really slow, but pair it with, it's got Shadow Sneak to help its speed. It's got Sucker Punch to help its speed. It can learn Trick Room. I believe it can learn Trick Room, or you can have a teammate learn Trick Room and help it out that way. It cannot learn Trick Room. You need a teammate to learn Trick Room, but I think there's plenty of plenty of reason to build a Trick Room team, or at least have a Trick Room mode if you have a Spiritomb on your team. This thing is just ridiculous. Its only weakness is Fairy, which it's Fairy. Like, Fairy is so hard to counter unless you're a Poison type. Like Gengar, I guess that's a benefit of being Poison type for Gengar. You can kill Fairies. There you go. Dusknoir. I think Dusknoir is just like Dusclops. I mean, it just has a defensive Ghost type, but it has even better offensive capability. So it's going to be a little bit easier for you, a little bit more flexible for you to use in your playthrough. But it's still very bulky. And the bulk, the Confuse Ray, Will-O-Wisp, and also the ability to hit hard, I gotta put in the S tier. I might have to like power creep everything down just to separate some things here, because a lot of these guys are going to end up in the S tier. There is some potential for games with Eviolite that you might actually not want to evolve your Dusclops, and you might leave it as a Dusclops instead of changing it to a Dusknoir with Eviolite, so you have even more bulk. But I think that's still part of the Dusknoir line. I'm talking about Dusknoir for that. So Eviolite Dusclops or evolving into Dusknoir, S tier. I think it's so bulky. Dusknoir for power, Dusclops for even more bulk. Super, super useful. Again, this is Gen 3 Dusclops I am talking about. I wish I could like throw a little thing on here, but I hope you guys understand at this point. Froslass. Froslass is A tier. It is an ice type that is fast, which is great. Stab Ice Beam will hit hard, even though its attacking stats are not fantastic. I think it's about 80. Snow Cloak is pretty niche, but the Ghost typing gives it better ways to switch in than other ice types, I guess, would be. So, like, if I was ranking ice types, I'd put Froslass kind of higher. The Stab Ice Beam is nice. It's really fast. It is useful because you can have a Ghost type and an Ice type at the same time. A common trend I like to say is 2 birds, 1 stone with this. There's oftentimes you might want to have an Ice type on your team, you might want to have a Ghost type on your team, or at least something with Ice Beam. So instead of your Water type having to be the thing with Ice Beam, you have a Ghost type with Ice Beam and Stab Ice Beam. It still has Will-O-Wisp to kind of help it out. It learns Hail, and you have the Hail Blizzard combo, which can be really good. And Hail also helps because it's boosts its evasion. You could do some double team Hail evasion cheesy strats if you need to. I think it's very useful. I think it's A tier. I think it lands in the A tier. It's got the immediacy to beat the B tier Pokemon down here, but it's not quite as powerful or polarizing as the guys up in S tier. So I think it lands in the A tier right here with Mischievous. Rotom. Electric type with Levitate. It's really cool. Ghost Electric is interesting typing. It's really great offensively. And for Rotom, I'm not going to talk about the Rotom forms. They are too inconsistent to get in your playthrough. Just know that almost every Rotom form is a step up. Rotom Wash, which is usually a water type, goes up here. Rotom Mow, Rotom Heat go up here. The rest of the Rotom forms are probably not as good as... I guess Rotom Freeze could be okay, but just base Rotom is what I'm ranking for this. Just because it's a consistent form. You know, you don't always get the forms to like post game, so I'm not gonna talk about them. But even just Rotom on itself, it's fast. It's got decent special attack. It's got okay defenses. It's relatively frail, but it's not like a super glass cannon. It can utilize screens. It can learn screens and utilize screens pretty well. And it only has the 2 ghost weaknesses. You have the electric type. You almost have the electric typing for free because you have Levitate. So you have the ground immunity, and that's electric type's only weakness. So if anything, you gain extra resistances to steel, flying, electric. So I think the electric typing with Ghost and Levitate is it's really cool typing. It's the 2 burns, 1 stone. You have a Ghost type and electric type at the same time. I think this thing's really useful. It's not the most amazing electric type ever, but you still have things like Thunder Wave, Confuse Ray, which is really, really good. It learns Substitute by level up, which can be fun, and it can allow it to do some shenanigans. It can learn Screens, which can be really helpful for you. It can still learn Will-O-Wisp. It can learn Weather. There's a lot of things it could do for you. It can be taught Nasty Plot and kind of pop off. It can Volt Switch, which is great. It Ghost type with Volt Switch. Really helpful to pivot around. I think it's very solid A tier. It's not the most powerful Pokemon, but it's some of the best typing. I think it's got to be some of the best typing of most Pokemon we reviewed. I think Bug Steel might be a little bit better than it, but it's really good typing. It's really good typing. Electric and Ghost is great offensively. It's great defensively. It's got great moveset. It's just lacking some better stats. And the forms would bump it up to S tier, I would say, with like you turn into Rotom Wash or Rotom Heat, and that's S tier. Base Rotom, I'm just still gonna throw in the A tier. Cofagrigus. Now, my first instinct with Cofagrigus is to throw it next to Dusclops and Dusknoir and say, hey, look, it's another one of these guys. And I think that's exactly what it is. Cofagrigus is... he's kind of like a Dusknoir. He's really bulky, and when I say really bulky, he's really bulky. He's got great special defense, or special attack, 95, so he can still do some good damage. I believe he can learn Trick Room, so he can kind of service himself. So if in it, some ways he's a little bit more useful than Dusknoir, but a Eviolite Dusclops would be bulkier than it. Either way, I'm gonna put it with these guys. I think it's very similar. I think Curse Body is still a somewhat niche, or no, sorry, not Curse Body. Mummy is a pretty niche ability because it's contact moves, and I think contact abilities that have to do with contact moves are almost wasted on ghost types because most contact moves are like normal or fighting types, so you're relying on like steel type moves. So like other unpopular physical coverage moves that just uncommon, unpopular. So I don't think Mummy is that great because on a ghost type, because these like contact moves are better against normal and fighting types because all of those attacks pretty much are contact moves. So ability wise, it's not much better than Pressure, really. But it does the same thing. It does the same thing as it's bulky, just like Dusknoir can hit hard. It's got great defensive moves such as Will-O-Wisp, Confuse Ray. I think it's just the same thing as these guys. Really, like basically the exact same thing. So put it with these guys. Jellicent. Jellicent. A tier or S tier? I'm bouncing between here. I'm going to leave it here as I talk about it. Jellicent, Water Ghost is really interesting typing. It's I want to say it's just as good as offensively as it is defensively. You've got amazing ability of Water Absorb. Curse Body, it's not as crazy. Water Absorb can be really good. It just gives you an immunity, and it can heal you off, so you can switch in from a ground type or whatever. It doesn't have the best stats ever, but it's got good bulk, high HP, high special defense, decent defense. The water typing is good defensive typing. Your ghost type, the water and ghost don't really add anything weakness-wise, or like don't really help each other out weakness-wise. But it's such interesting typing. It's kind of the two birds, one stone, super unique typing. You do have great moves like Recover. You have Acid Armor to help you out, and Water Spout. You can switch in pretty easily with the ghost typing, so you can get Water Spouts off without having taken damage if you switch into a normal or fighting type attack. Which fighting you can kind of manipulate if you have a rock type, dark type, steel type, and switch them. Have them in a fighting type comes in. You switch in your Jellicent to the incoming fighting type attack, and if they can't do a lot of damage to you, or can't do any damage to you, Water Spout just nukes them hard. Stat-wise, I'm really leaning heavily on the S tier and the A tier. I'm really leaning heavily on like top of A, bottom of S. I think I'm gonna put it right next to Rotom. I'll put it in the A tier. I think it could deserve S tier. If anyone wanted to argue it's S tier, I would not argue it. I would be like, yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna leave it right here for now, just not to crowd the S tier quite as much, you know? Not to crowd it quite as much. Alright, Chandelure. Ghost Fire is crazy good offensive typing. Because Ghost is only resisted by a couple things, like Steel, until later when it's not resisted by Steel. And Fire hits everything that resists Ghost. And even defensively, you have all of the ghost type immunities and resistances, and then fire gives you resistance to like fairy, grass, which is just a pretty common type. And this thing just hits super hard. It's got a great speed stat actually. It's not too fast. It's not slow at all. It's not super fast, but it's not slow in the slightest. And it can hit super hard. Trick Room, Will-O-Wisp. I think this thing definitely lands itself in the S tier, just for the power it has. It's not the best defensive ghost type ever, but it's also can still do that while being just a complete nuke. Flash Fire and Flame Body. I think Flash Fire is probably the better ability, just for the immunity and the power boost. Yeah, 145 special attack is just so scary. It's so scary. It hits so hard. And great stab options. I think this thing definitely lands in the A tier, or the S tier. I'll put it up here with the other special attackers. Probably above them, actually, too. Maybe here. Maybe here. I'm not sure, ordering-wise, what I feel for these guys. It could be up here. It could be better than them. It could be not better than them. I'll leave it here for now. I guess having the fire type in the ghost typing, 2 birds, 1 stone aspect does make me want to put it in. I'll put it above. I'll put it as the best of these offensive ghost types, but not quite Spiritomb level. Golurk. Golurk is Iron Fist, and that powers up a Shadow Punch, which is great, because Shadow Punch is solid stab for it, can't miss. Iron Fist boosted Shadow Punch is great. And then also you have Stab Earthquake. Ground Ghost is another really cool offensive typing. It doesn't give you the best defensive typing. The thing's got some solid bulk, though, so it's not really worried about that regard. And just on the offensive point, it's going to hit really hard. Shadow Punch, Earthquake, Fighting coverage. If you have the Elemental coverage, the Elemental Punch coverage, it goes even higher up. It's a little slow and not super bulky, so I don't think it's like... That's not S tier, but this thing can be really solid. It's nice having ground type and a ghost type on your team at the same time. The electric immunity with the normal fighting immunity can be really nice. I think it's a very solid A tier Pokemon. Aegislash. Aegislash is hard to use, I want to say, in a sense. You have to be careful, but this thing can be super polarizing. Super polarizing. Steel typing with ghost typing, you've got 2 of the best defensive typings ever. Your steel type not weak to fighting, which is crazy. Your ghost type that is still weak to dark, because dark is no longer resisted by steel at that point. But you also have the fairy resistance, and this thing is either one of the best defensive Pokemon, best defensive pivots, or one of the hardest hitting offensive Pokemon. And Aegislash is just such a crazy Pokemon in Nuzlocke. The typing, and as a ghost type, I mean, you have a ghost type on your team, and a steel type on your team at the same time. Yeah, it's a contender for Jinkies. I might just leave them in the Jinkies tier for now. I'll do that. I'll leave the contenders in the Jinkies tier for now, because they just need to be... I think they need to be highlighted right now. He's a contender for Jinkies tier with Spiritomb. Super crazy. Trevenant. So we're about to get into the grass ghost types we talked about last video. So I'll try to go over them a little bit faster, but I'll still, keep their talking points valid. Essentially, I think all of the grass ghost types go in the A tier as well. I might have to power creep down into B tier a little bit. We'll see. But I think all of the grass ghost types go into the A tier. I think this is the order I had them in last time. I think I like Gourgeist a little bit better. I think the best form of it is probably the small form, so you have the highest speed. So you've got decent speed, good defense. Grass Ghost is not the most impressive typing, I think, on this tier of the dual types, like the dual primary types, I guess. But it's still good. It's still good typing. You're a water killer with fighting immunity. It's kind of the 2 birds, 1 stone mentality here. Gourgeist has got some good offensive because of Trick or Treat, making your opponent ghost type, and then you've got your Stab Shadow Sneak to hit them super effectively. You've got Will-O-Wisp to be defensive. I think it's got like a really nice mix. It's got some really interesting flexibility there. And then Trevenant has Forest Curse, which turns its opponent into a grass type, which can give it a weakness that you maybe you're fighting a really scary Pokemon. You can you can add a grass type to it, and now you can hit super effectively with another Pokemon. Probably not your own Trevenant, but with another Pokemon. That could be kind of okay. It's not as bulky as Gourgeist, but it does still have Will-O-Wisp and stuff to be a really solid defensive Pokemon while still having good offensive stats, good attack stat. And Decidueye is lacking a little bit of speed. It's kind of painfully well-rounded. It's got good attack. It's got good special attack. It's got decent special attack, decent special defense. Not great defense, not great speed, not great HP. So it's like not a sweeper, but not a defensive Pokemon. But it can still hit hard with stab grass type attacks, stab ghost type attacks. Flying coverage is gonna have. It does have it can get Roost, which can help it out a little bit. So it could be higher than Trevenant. I think these two. I just put Trevenant a little bit higher for the defensive flexibility, but these two could switch reasonably. And I'll put Misdreavus at the... Maybe I'll pull Misdreavus down. I'll pull Misdreavus down. How about that? I think that looks a little bit better. Oricorio. Revelation Dance is just like a slightly stronger Shadow Ball, which will turn Ghost type if you have the Ghost type form. But I don't think Ghost Flying is very good. I don't think its stats are that crazy good. I think it just lands in C tier. All you really do is just like... I mean, Air Slash is good. Feather Dance can be nice. Roost. Revelation Dance, that's kind of like all you do. It's got a decent moveset. Honestly, it's better than Sableye. I could pull the B tier down to C tier, honestly. It's better than Sableye, but yeah, I put it like about here. Alolan Marowak. It could have Lightning Rod, giving it it could be a fire ghost type with an electric immunity because of Lightning Rod. That's crazy alone. You still have all the ground type coverage moves that normal Marowak learns, like a Bone Club. It can hit really hard because of the Thick Club item. It can just double its attack stat. It's got good bulk and an already good attack stat, and I think it can learn Belly Drum by level move relearner. But even just without Belly Drum, this thing is just Thick Club. Just Thick Club, a fire ghost type. This thing is crazy good offensively. Lightning Rod for random immunity. It's literally just a random immunity. You're a fire type and a ghost type. That's now immune to electric. Just cuz. So that alone puts it really high. Thick Club. There's so many things going for it. It's a little slow. It's not the bulkiest thing ever, which holds it back a little bit, but just why does it have Lightning Rod? It's just funny. It's hilarious. It does have a decent, I guess, 5 weaknesses. Like, these guys have 5 weaknesses, these guys have less, so I guess I'll put them... I'll put these guys above the fire types. But it's situational. If you need just a pure ghost type, I think I'd probably prefer these guys, but if you need a fire type on the team too, these two are here, which is just super cool. Moveset-wise, yeah, good coverage because of the ground type, like Stomping Tantrum, Bone Rush, Bone Meringue, Flame Wheel, and Flare Blitz for decent stab. It doesn't get Flare Blitz for a while, but like Flame Wheel will be fine. It's going to hit really hard regardless. You still have Will-O-Wisp to be really good defensively. And then you do kind of lack a good ghost type stab, but you can get away with it. I think that alone will hold it back. I guess lacking a ghost type stab via level up will hold it back a little bit, but just a little bit. Oh, never mind. You get Shadow Bone when you evolve. Just kidding. I missed that. How did I miss that? Yeah, you're good. These 4 are interchangeable. Just leave it like that. These 4 are interchangeable. Palisand. I think this thing... I've seen this thing be like kind of scary in VGC. It has an ability where if it gets hit by a water type attack, it raises defense by 2. But it's still weak to water. So water type attack is just going to hit it hard. And then you raise your defense, but you don't really have like good recovery. I guess you have recover. Never mind. You do have decent recovery, but why would you do this in a playthrough? I think this is too niche to be used in a playthrough. And then outside of that, I don't think its stats or moveset or move pool is anything crazy. So I'm gonna leave it in the C tier. You know, I am gonna do a big power creep. Let's do a big power creep. Let's knock all these guys down to C tier. Let's knock some of these guys down to B tier. And let's pull these guys down into the A tier. I wanna power creep this a little bit. And really, I feel like these guys are separate from these guys. These guys are separate from these guys. I think this helps out a little bit. So big change. Hopefully you guys didn't click off the video already. Dhelmise. Dhelmise essentially has 3 stabs because of Steelworker. You have Stab Ghost, Stab Grass, and Stab Steel, allowing you to hit a lot of things really hard because it has a really high attack stat. And great bulk. It's slow, so you want to build a Trick Room team for it, which you can do in these other generations. I keep talking about like building a Trick Room team for it. Just have a Pokemon, have a support Pokemon with Trick Room. You don't even necessarily need it because this thing's got good bulk. And yeah, really high attack stat. You're running something like Anchor Shot or maybe Heavy Slam or even just Gyro Ball. Gyro Ball can help you out there. So you've got great Steel Stab. You've got Power Whip really late. So you don't have great Grass Stab. It kind of depends on the game you're playing and the Grass TMs you get. But even something like Grass Knot, Energy Ball, or Giga Drain could be okay because it's still got a usable special attack stat. And then Ghost Stab, you usually don't get till pretty late. So I think all of the somewhat hindrances to moveset does hold it back from S tier, but I think I will still put it in the A tier. Just for the pure offensive capabilities it can have. Maybe not quite that mono, but I'll put it like here. I think this feels good. I'll put it like right here. The best of the grass and ghost types, in my opinion. Just because of that 3rd stab can just be so cool. Something like that. Mimikyu, Fairy type, Disguise, Swords Dance, Play Rough, Shadow Sneak, Will-O-Wisp, Trick Room. Mimikyu can do it all. Mimikyu can do everything you need. Ghost type and Fairy type, great typing. And together you're Ghost type, no longer weak to Dark. And you're also Fairy type, not weak to Poison. You are weak to yourself, Ghost, and Steel. That is it. You only have 1 resistance, which is funny, which is Bug, but you're damaged neutrally by everything else. But Disguise kind of changes everything. You just take a hit for free, essentially. Disguise, you take any hit, no matter how strong it is, for free. You've got good speed, good defensive stats, low HP, but like because of the high defense, you're pretty okay, and a solid attack. The speed is really the kicker there, because of stuff like Hone Claws or Swords Dance, with Shadow Sneak, Play Rough, Shadow Claw, Wood Hammer for some reason, Pain Split, Mimic. This thing is crazy. This thing is so crazy. It's totally a Jinkies contender. It's like, why? Why can it do everything? Could do so much. Can even learn like Leech Life to snipe dark types without your fairy type. Why? Why can it do all these things? Drain Punch, Will-O-Wisp, Facade because Facade's funny. It's fantastic. Alrighty, on to the Gen 8 Ghosts. Sinistea. This thing is crazy. This thing is ridiculous. It has super high special attack stat and Shell Smash. That is ridiculous. Shell Smash with this crazy high special attack stat. You have low defense, but whatever. You have weak armor, like all the time, so you have low defense. You don't really want to get hit defensively on the defensive side. If you ever do, if it doesn't kill you, you get a speed boost out of it. So it's like, hey, that's pretty cool. So ability-wise, I don't really care. Just Shell Smash and the crazy special attack. This thing is a monster. This thing can just pop off out of nowhere, and easily lands in the S tier. I don't think quite the Jinkies tier, but S tier nonetheless. It's just so scary. Cursula. I think I said the thing right. Cursula. This thing is not as immediately scary as Polteageist, but it's really bulky, hits really hard, and learns the wildest amount of coverage I've ever seen. 145 special attack, 130 special defense, so it's a complete special wall. Bad defense, but like, okay. It also has weak armor. What's with these two things having weak armor? So if it gets hit defensively, you kind of just don't use weak armor because you never want them to get hit on the defensive side, but like, they still have things like Iron Defense. Cursula can learn Iron Defense. Strength Sap. Can be taught Will-O-Wisp. So now that scary defense stat is not really a big deal anymore. You have Disable, just in case. Power Gem, random coverage. to learn the weather type the weather setting moves. It's got great attack stat too, so it can still give you good like earthquake coverage. Stab Shadow Ball, Scald, because why not? Surf, Hydro Pump, because screw it. You want Icy Wind? You want Ice Beam? This thing just has so much coverage for no reason. Easily S tier. These things are just crazy good. They're crazy good. They're almost Jinkies tier. Like they're if their defense wasn't so bad, they'd be Jinkies tier. Like what are these things? These things are crazy. Runerigus. I don't know how to pronounce this thing's name. Runerigus. That's how I'm gonna call it. It's I don't think this thing is as good as Cofagrigus. I think it's essentially the same stats. The ability is essentially the same. You have the ground typing, which doesn't help you defensively. It's a slightly worse Cofagrigus, so I'm gonna pull it down to like here. I actually think maybe Golurk would be a better version of it. So put it right here with Golurk. How about that? I'll do like this. Yeah, let's do that. That feels good. It just feels like a worse Cofagrigus to me. Dragapult. If Dragapult didn't evolve so late, it would be higher, but I mean, Dragon and Ghost together, crazy good typing. This thing is stupid fast. It's faster than everything, essentially. Like, you're gonna be, I don't know what's gonna outspeed you in a playthrough. Level 60 is fine for Sword and Shield because it's the only game it's in, and Sword and Shield has a really high level cap. Curse Body, or Clear Body, great ability. Infiltrator, solid ability. 120 attack, Dragon Dance. This thing is just crazy. It learns level up, or U-turn by level up. Gets Sucker Punch. It doesn't have. It gets Phantom Force, so it's got good. Ghost Stab. It could be a physical attacker. It could be a special attacker. It could be a mixed attacker because of great stats it got. Baton Pass. Dragon Dance. Baton Pass. I think this thing deserves the Jinkies tier. Even in like its pre-evolved forms can still like Dragon Dance, Baton Pass. I can still do that. I can still offer that to the team, which that alone is just crazy. And then once it's a Dragapult, it's just ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. Definitely going to Jinkies tier. All right, on to Legends of Arceus. Typhlosion, Fire Ghost. I think Typhlosion is very solid for a Legends Arceus playthrough. It handles a lot of the not alpha Pokemon. A lot of the what are they called? The boss Pokemon of every region. The golden shining. I can't remember what they're called at the moment, but it can handle a lot of those Pokemon. It's super effective against a lot of them. The Lilligant, the not Caesar, Scyther's rock type evolution. Why am I spacing names so hard right now? I am spacing names super hard. It could be solid against the Giratina and Volophyte too. I think it's a very solid starter pick for the region. Nothing crazy, nothing bad about it though. Solid typing as we see up here. Zoroark. Zoroark goes in the S tier. Normal Ghost is incredible typing. Illusion, once it gets to the ability of Illusion, it's gonna be rocking competitive. I think this thing's gonna start rocking competitive. But even just in Legends Arceus, you got like Nasty Plot, great stab, great coverage, really good speed and special attack. This thing would be like better than these guys. But I feel like Legends of Arceus is a little awkward to rank comparatively to the other games, so I'll leave it at the bottom of S tier, but still really good. I think that once competitive comes around, this thing will be really, really, really good. And if you ever get to play with this thing, and like I think it's in Scarlet Violet, where it gets its ability Illusion, you're gonna be able to trick the AI like crazy with all the immunities it has to Ghost, Fighting, and Normal. You just have a Pokemon in the back that Zoroark is disguised as that is weak to one of those three types, and the AI won't be able to hit you because it doesn't understand. The AI doesn't work around Illusion well, and you can really cheese it well. But currently Illusion's not a thing, so I guess if you're like playing a ROM hack randomizer with it, it's probably like a Jinkies tier. But most likely you're playing Legends Arceus, where it doesn't have the ability, but it's still just a really good offensive Pokemon. Just super, super good offensive Pokemon. Can 1v1 the Giratina. Just because this thing's a nut. This thing's a nut. It goes up there. And both of the Basculegion forms, the male and the female forms, one is a better special attacker, one is a better physical attacker. The female is a better special attacker. The male is a better physical attacker, but these things are both just like solid water types, I guess, for your playthrough. They don't have crazy speed. They'll be better like competitive Pokemon, but I think just for a playthrough, they're nothing like too special. So I'll throw them in the B tier. And to rank the king of ghosts, the ghouliest ghost, the ultimate Jinkies Pokemon, I have to put Mimikyu. My vote is Mimikyu. I think the fairy typing, the two weaknesses to not super common types of Ghost and Steel, which Ghost you handle yourself. Swords Dance, Trick Room, Disguise is an ability. I think it's just got everything. Good stats. I don't think Mimikyu has a weakness. I really don't. I really don't think it has a weakness. I think this thing it offers so much to your team. It could be used in so many different ways. As like a supportive like Trick Room, Will-O-Wisp Pokemon like we usually see in competitive. It can be offensive with Swords Dance. You get a free Swords Dance setup because of Disguise. And then Shadow Sneak and Play Rough. Like this thing is just so easy, flexible, and it doesn't have weakness. There's not like a flaw to this Pokemon. So I gotta put it as the ultimate Jinkies pick. And that's gonna do it for the video, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know what your favorite Ghost type is. I think I might have missed that for the Grass type. My favorite Ghost type is probably Dragapult. I love Dragapult. I think it's so cool. Just kidding, it's Zoroark. Hisuian Zoroark is by far my favorite Ghost type. But let me know what your favorite Ghost type is. Let me know your thoughts, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Just be nice. If you disagree, just be nice about it. Don't be a POS. All right. Love y'all. Thank you for getting me to 1,000, by the way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me know what type you want to see next. I love y'all. Peace.